session of a oscillator circuit, we have discussed a RC oscillator. In RC oscillator, we have discussed a Wien-Bridge oscillator, and another is a RC phase shift oscillator. But what is the limitation of this kind of the oscillator? That it cannot generate the high frequency. These oscillators are used for generating a low frequency. And low frequency means it can generate up to a 1 megahertz or a 2 megahertz. But if our requirement of the frequency is very high, like a 10 megahertz, or if I want to generate like a 50 megahertz or a 100 megahertz, then we have to go for another category of the oscillator, which is known as a LC oscillator. So this LC oscillator has capacity for generating the high frequency. Now, number of the LC oscillators we have, the basic LC oscillator is there, then we have a Hartley oscillator, then another is known as a Colpitts oscillator, then the third one is known as the Clapp oscillator, collector tune oscillator. The number of the LC oscillators are there, but the widely used LC oscillators are Hartley and the Colpitts oscillator. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about the Hartley oscillator, and in the next lecture we will see about the Colpitts oscillator. But before we start a Hartley or the Colpitts oscillator, first of all we will see how the oscillation is taking place in a LC circuit. LC circuit is known as the tune circuit or the tank circuit, where the inductor and the capacitor are connected in parallel. Here we have a kind of a capacitor, and parallel to the capacitor the inductor is connected. Now this parallel combination, to understand the oscillation in a LC circuit, initially we have to charge the capacitor, and therefore here we apply some DC voltage through a kind of a switch. So here my DC voltage is there, and when we press the switch, then the battery is connected to a tank circuit. So what will happen? Due to this, your capacitor is going to charge, and this capacitor will be charged up to whatever the maximum voltage you have applied to a input of the LC circuit. And then if we open the switch, remember here after the charging the capacitor, if we open the switch, now the DC source is disconnected. Only there is a combination of N and C is there. So in this condition, your capacitor is going to be a discharge in this way through the capacitor, through the inductor, and as a result there will be a flow of the current. So initially the capacitor was charged, and there was a kind of a electric field, like in this direction the electric field was there. So you can say whatever the energy we have supplied through the battery, it is stored in the form of the electric field in the capacitor. Now when we remove the source, then the capacitor is going to discharge through this inductor, and current is going to flow. Due to this current, here the magnetic field is going to be produced, and here due to this magnetic field you can say your energy is now saved in the form of a magnetic field. And how the capacitor is charging, discharging with the time t, let us see what is happening here. initially, initially your capacitor is going to charge up to a voltage Vn, or we can say the voltage V is there. It is fully charged. So if we see the waveform for this voltage, then this is representing the voltage. So at the time t is equal to 0, remember, this is the time t is equal to 0, there is a maximum voltage across the capacitor, there is no flow of current. Here the current in the inductor is 0, and that's why here this is representing the current. This waveform is representing current, and this waveform is representing either the charge or the voltage across the capacitor. Now when we remove this battery, then what will happen? Your capacitor is going to be discharged through this inductor, and the flow of the current will be like this. So the voltage across the capacitor, here the voltage across this capacitor is go on decreasing, and as the voltage is decreasing, means now the maximum charge is in the inductor, and that is forming a current. So here, due to this charge in the inductor, the value of the current is go on increasing. Value of the current is go on increasing. So you can say now the energy is transferred from a electric field to the magnetic field. Now at the time t is equal to t by 4, remember, at the time t is equal to t by 4, what will happen? Your capacitor is going to be fully discharged. Means there is no charge on the plate of the capacitor, and here we have a maximum charge in the inductor. Means the maximum flow of the charge will be there. So the maximum flow of the current will be there, and therefore at this point the current is maximum, but the voltage at this point is going to be 0. You can say your applied energy is now in the form of a magnetic field. Then after what will happen? The capacitor will be discharged in a opposite way. Here the positive charge are there, negative charge is there. So here what will happen? This capacitor, whatever the positive charge was here, now it is going to be discharged in a opposite direction. So the voltage across the capacitor is going to reverse. So here this voltage is now going to be a negative. So at this time t is equal to t by 2, we have a minus V voltage. So this is a minus V voltage. And at that time, if you see, the current in the inductor is also 0. So at this point the current is 0. Then after again, what will happen? The capacitor is going to be discharged in a opposite direction. Here now we have this negative charge. Now then the capacitor is discharged in opposite direction. So the voltage across the capacitor is now go on decreasing, and again at this point at 3t by 4 there is no electric field across inside the capacitor, but there is a maximum current in the inductor. So here the current is going to be a maximum. So in this way, this process is going to be a continuum. So capacitor is go on charge, discharge, then the current in the inductor increase, and then it is going to decrease. So this is the ideal case where we have a ideal inductor and the ideal capacitor is there. Then this oscillation will be a continuum like this. But in a practical wave capacitor or a practical inductor, there is a dielectric loss is there in a capacitor, as well as there is a inductor has a DC resistance. So whenever the current is going to be passed through this, then due to the DC resistance of the inductor, there will be a loss of the energy. This energy will be dissipated in the form of a heat. So the amplitude of the voltage or the amplitude of the current is going to decrease because the energy is dissipated. So next time whenever the capacitor will be charged, then the amplitude will not be the same. Here initial voltage across the capacitor is V, Then after this voltage will be less than V. Then in a third cycle it will be again it is go on decreasing. So here if we consider the practical value of the inductor and the capacitor, then you will find this kind of the oscillation in the LC circuit. That this oscillation initially amplitude is maximum, and then with the next cycle amplitude is decreasing. Again after the next cycle it is go on decreasing, and what will happen after some time the oscillation will not be there. This kind of the oscillation is known as a damped oscillation. Here whatever the amplitude is go on decreasing means the here this much amount of the loss of the energy is there. Therefore the amplitude of this voltage is decreasing. Then after that again the loss of energy is increasing. So the amplitude of the voltage is again go on decreasing. And after some time there will not be any kind of a oscillation. So this is known as a damped oscillation. But in an oscillator, we want a sustained oscillation. Sustained oscillation means what? That the amplitude must be remain constant. So here, whatever the loss of the energy is there, this loss of the energy is there, then we have to compensate. So that is possible that if you use the amplifier, then the amplifier will give you the compensation for the loss of the energy, and then you can have a sustained oscillation. So the basic principle of the LC oscillation is that a capacitor is going to charge and discharge, again charge and discharge, and you can have this kind of the oscillation. Now let us see how we can use this LC circuit with the transistor. And the first circuit is a Hartley oscillator. So what is the circuit diagram for the Hartley oscillator? Let us see. Okay. So here you can see that basically in a oscillator, what we have, a kind of a amplifier circuit will be there and a feedback network is there. Feedback network, and we are selecting the percentage of the output voltage. So output of this amplifier is given to a feedback network, and this output of the feedback network is given to the amplifier circuit. And here the amplifier has to introduce a 180 degree of the phase shift, and another 180 degree of the phase shift is introduced by this a feedback network. So in this way the Barkhausen criteria will be satisfied. What is the Barkhausen criteria? That the K into AV must be equal to 1, and the phase angle of the K into AV must be equal to 0 or a 360 degree. Correct? So here we can have a gain of the amplifier is A, then we can select the value of K so that the K into AV will be equal to 1, and then here the phase of the amplifier is 180 degree, another 180 degree is provided by the feedback network, so the total will be a 360 degree. Now if you look at this, circuit diagram, then this part is nothing but it is a kind of a amplifier circuit. It is simply a common emitter amplifier where the resistance R1, R2 and REC is providing a proper bias to the transistor, and these two capacitors at the input and at the output, they are a coupling capacitor. So basically this is the amplifier circuit. Now where is the output voltage of the amplifier? Output voltage is going to be produced here. And where is the input voltage? It is the input voltage of the amplifier is there. Then here whatever this network is there, this is my feedback network. So output of this amplifier is given to a feedback network, and the output of the feedback network is again connected to a input of the amplifier circuit. So here this amplifier circuit is going to be introduced a 180 degree of the phase shift, and this feedback network also going to introduce a phase of a 180 degree. Now if you look at this feedback network, then the inductor L1 and L2, they are in a series, and across this series combination of the inductor, the capacitor is connected. So this is the feedback network. Now when we discuss the Colpitts oscillator, then instead of the inductor, the capacitors are connected here, and instead of the capacitor, the inductor is connected. So this is the difference between Hartley oscillator and Colpitts oscillator. Now how this network is going to be introduced at 180 degree. So if you look at this L1 and L2, then they are nothing but it is a kind of a part of the auto transformer here. If you remember, in case of the rectifier circuit, we have a center tap transformer like this, correct? And we can say that this is a L1 and this part is a L2. Then with respect to ground, whenever we have a positive cycle at this end of the transformer, then there will be a negative cycle at this end of the transformer. Means there is a 180 degree phase shift between the upper terminal and the lower terminal of the transformer. So basically we say this is a positive, then this will be a negative for this L1, then this will be a positive and this will be a negative for this. So here in a auto transformer, whenever on an upper terminal the positive cycle will be there, then here we have negative cycle. So we can say the 180 degree phase shift is introduced by this two inductors. The same thing is also there. So if you consider this one as a positive terminal, this is a negative terminal, then for this inductor L1, this one is a positive terminal, this one is a negative, and this is going to be introduced a 180 degree phase shift for our requirement. So in this way, this circuit is satisfying the Barkhausen criteria. Now, what is another thing? In this circuit, you can see RFC is there. So, what is the RFC? It is known as a radio frequency choke or a coil. It is a kind of a simple coil. So, here we don't have a resistive load. It is an inductive load is there. And why we require the inductive load? Because when the oscillation will take place, then at this point on the connector, whatever the current is going to be flow, here that current is also going to be increase or decrease in this way. So the collector current is going to be flow like this, and this collector current is coming from the power supply. Remember, it means the current will also change in the power supply. And if the power supply is unregulated, then the power supply voltage is also going to be a fluctuate. Here, if you see, then this is my VCC. If you have the ideal power supply or the regulated power supply, but as the current will increase or decrease, then this DC voltage will also slightly increase and decrease. Or you can say that this my oscillating frequency has entered into the power supply, and sometimes it can corrupt the power supply in the sense that this power supply is also used for some other circuit at the same time. Then here my DC voltage is that I am fluctuating, then the output of the other circuit will also change. So here, to protect the power supply from this high frequency, oscillating frequency, there we are connecting a coil. So this coil will give you the reactance of omega L. That is a very high reactance because the value of the inductor is going to be high. So this RFC will provide a high impedance to this your oscillating frequency, Therefore, it cannot be entered into the power supply. So that is the role of a radio frequency tube. Okay. So to protect the power supply, we are using a RFC. Okay. Now let us have a analysis. Means we want to find out what is the frequency of oscillation, and for this we will draw a equivalent circuit. So what will be the equivalent circuit? So first of all we will draw a feedback network. So in a feedback network we can draw in this way. Here this L1 we represent with this impedance Z1, L2 we will represent with the impedance Z2, and the capacitor will be represented as Z3. Remember, here we consider a general case. So it can be an inductor or a capacitor, and that's why I am writing for Z1, Z2, and Z3. So here, if we draw this equivalent circuit, then this equivalent circuit will be like this. This one is a Z1, this is a Z2, and the combination that connection between the Z1 and Z2 is connected to the ground. Then the Z3 is a parallel to this. So you can represent in this way, correct? So in equivalent circuit, this feedback network is most important part. Then this input part of the amplifier. So in the input part of the amplifier, we are representing with the impedance or the input resistance of a transistor, and that is the HIE. Now already you know, when we draw a equivalent circuit, we are not representing the bias resistance and the coupling capacitor. Remember. So here the input, that whatever the Z1 is there, Z1 is directly parallel to this input resistance of the HIE. So I can draw this in this way. So this is the HIE of the transistor. And then in the output part we have to consider a transistor either as a voltage source or a current source. Here we will draw a equivalent current source. So what will be the equivalent current source? So what is the flow of the current in a transistor? That is a collector current. If the HFE is, that is the current gain of the transistor is HFE, then the equivalent value of this current source we can write as HFE into IB. Remember. And then this transistor, output of the transistor is connected to this. So if there is a flow of a base current at the input, then there will be a flow of a collector current in the output, and the value of the collector current is going to be a HFE into IB. So this is the equivalent circuit of your a Hartley oscillator, and here we will find out what is the frequency of oscillation. Okay. Now for the frequency of oscillation, we have to satisfy the Barkhausen criteria, that is the KAV is equal to 1. Means we have to calculate what is the feedback factor and what is the gain of the amplifier. Now feedback factor means what? It is a ratio of a feedback voltage to the output voltage. Correct? So where is your output voltage? Output voltage is at this point, or you can say the output voltage is at this point, and we measure the output voltage with respect to ground. So this is the output voltage of your amplifier circuit. Where is the feedback voltage? So whatever the voltage is going to be induced in the inductor. Now remember here, L1 and L2 they are in series, but how the voltage is going to be induced in the inductor? that there will be due to a mutual inductance between the L1 and L2. So whenever the current is going to be flow in a L2, due to that the current is induced in the L1. So there will be a kind of a mutual inductance between the L1 and L2. So due to that, the EMF is going to be induced in the L1. And whatever the EMF is induced in the L1, it is nothing but it is my feedback voltage. And this feedback voltage VF is applied at the input of the transistor. So if you look at the equivalent circuit, in the equivalent circuit, this is the output voltage and this one is a feedback voltage. Output voltage is across the L2 means Z2 and the feedback voltage is across the Z1 means it is a here also Z1. So if you calculate this VF by VO ratio, you can calculate what is the feedback factor. Correct? Now let us see how to calculate this. So I will remove the circuit. So, equivalent circuit is here. Now, first of all, we will write what is the voltage gain of the amplifier. Now, the gain of the amplifier, already you know, that is given as AV is equal to, that is a standard formula, AI into RL divided by RI. Correct? We have used this formula in a negative feedback also. Now, what is the current gain? Current gain of the transistor is a HAP. Now, RL is a load, but here if you look at this RL, so it is across across these two terminals. Now, across these two terminals, the Z2 is connected, Z3 is connected, Z1 is also there, and the HIE is also there. So, if you look at this load for the amplifier circuit, then this is a load. Remember, here equivalent circuit of this will give is a load for your amplifier circuit, and let us say it is a ZL. Then we will calculate what is the ZL, and the input resistance means the input resistance of our transistor is HIE. And second thing here, okay, let us write again. This is equal to minus, because the amplifier is going to be introduced at 180 degree, so the gain will be minus HAP into RL divided by, not RL, but it is a ZL. ZL divided by HIE. You can say this is our expression number 1. Okay? So this is the gain of the amplifier. Now, what is the feedback factor? Feedback factor is a VF by VO, and that we have to calculate. So how to calculate this? So again, whatever the ZL is there, that for that we will draw again a equivalent circuit. So easily you can find out what is the feedback voltage and what is the output voltage. Correct? So try to understand this. Here let us say this is the terminal number 1, this is the terminal number 2, and this is the terminal number 3. Now the terminal number, between the terminal number 2 and 3, we have Z2. So I will draw the Z2. Remember, this is the terminal number 3 and this one is the terminal number 2. So terminal number 2 is connected to the ground. So between the 2 and 3 we have impedance Z2. Correct? Now from the terminal number 3 the Z3 is also connected. So here we can draw a Z3. Correct? This Z3. Now the second end of the Z3 is connected to Z1 and the Z1 is connected to the ground. So here we have a Z1 and then it is connected to the ground. So try to understand this loop. Between the 2 and 3 terminal Z2 is there. Then the Z3 is connected to terminal number 3. Then the Z3 is also connected to second end of the Z3 is connected to Z1 and then it is connected to ground. Now the Z1 is connected parallel to the HIE. So here the HIE is also there. This is my HIE. Okay? So same thing I have drawn in a different way so that you can easily understand. Okay. So first of all we have to see what is the ZL. ZL means the impedance between the 2 and 3. So here we can write that the ZL will be equal to, now if you look at the terminal 2 and 3, so the Z2 is there, Z2 is Z3 and Z1 HIE. So first of all if you see the Z1 and HIE, they are parallel to each other. So we will write that this ZL is equal to Z1 parallel HIE. Now this parallel combination is in series with Z3. So plus Z3. And whatever this series combination is there, it is in parallel with the Z2. So here this is equal to, we can say it is Z2. So this is actually a load for the oscillator circuit. And here we write the Z1 parallel HIE equal to, let us say it is a Z1 dash. So my ZL will be equal to Z1 dash plus Z3 parallel to the Z2. Parallel to the Z2. Okay? And this thing we can write as parallel combination is there. So it is Z1 dash plus Z3 into Z2 divided by a Z1 dash plus Z2 plus Z3. So this is the expression for a ZL. Remember. Okay. Now find out the K. So the feedback factor. K. It is a ratio of a feedback voltage to the output voltage. Now, if we look at the circuit diagram, across the Z1, what we have? VO means my output voltage is here. And where is the feedback voltage? Across the Z1. So, here, whatever the voltage is going to be induced, it is my feedback voltage. So, that voltage we have to write. Correct? So, to write this feedback voltage, let us assume that some current is passing through this network. So, here, when this current I, here Z3 and this parallel combination are in series, so we can say the current I is also flowing in this same network. Sorry, not here. The current I is flowing in this network. And here we have a parallel combination of Z1 and HIE, and it is represented as Z1. So the feedback voltage is nothing but I into Z1 dash. Remember, try to understand that we assume some current is flowing. So here this Z3 and the parallel combination, they are in series. So here the current in the parallel combination will be same. So we can write the voltage across the Z1 equal to I into Z1 dash. And then about a output voltage. So output voltage is across this. Correct? So the same current is flowing. So we can write it is a Z3 plus Z1 dash. Z3 plus Z1 dash. And therefore my feedback factor comes out to be Z1 dash divided by Z3 plus Z1 dash. Correct? So in this way we have calculated the ZL, and we have calculated what is the feedback factor. And now we write what is the Barkhausen criteria. So again here I will copy this equation. Then we will copy this. And now I think so. Now also we don't require a equivalent circuit. So we run off. Okay. So what is the Barkhausen criteria? Before the Barkhausen criteria, we will write the expression for a voltage gain. So the voltage gain of the amplifier is AV is equal to minus HAP into ZL divided by HIE. And what is my ZL? ZL already we have calculated. So minus HAP upon HIE into, we can say it is a Z1 dash plus a Z3 into a Z2 divided by Z1 dash plus Z2 plus Z3. So this is the voltage gain of the amplifier. Now feedback factor is this. So now we can write a Barkhausen criteria. So what is the Barkhausen criteria? That is a K into AV is equal to 1. Correct? So we put this value of K. K is nothing but it is a Z1 dash divided by Z1 dash plus Z3. Correct? And what is AV? That is minus HAP upon HIE into a Z1 dash plus Z3 into Z2 divided by a Z1 dash plus Z2 plus Z3, and this is equal to 1. So here you can see Z1 dash plus Z3, and here also in the numerator it is there. So we can cancel this and we will get a Z1 dash into Z2 divided by, now Z1 dash into Z2 divided by Z1 dash plus Z2 plus Z3, and this is equal to if you take the HAP by HIE ratio on other side, then minus HIE upon HAP. Here, now we will put what is Z1 dash. So Z1 dash, already you know, it is a parallel combination of Z1 and HIE. So this thing we can write as Z1 into HIE divided by Z1 plus HIE. Correct? So Z1 into HIE into Z2 divided by Z1 plus HIE divided by Z1 HIE divided by Z1 plus HIE plus Z2 plus Z3, and this is equal to minus HIE upon HAP. And now we have to again simplify this expression. So what we will get here, the HIE, here HIE and this HIE will be cancelled out, and Z1 plus HIE in the denominator, in the numerator, it will be cancelled if we multiply Z1 plus HIE with the Z2 and Z3. So my expression will be Z1 into Z2. First of all, we will write Z1 into Z2 divided by Z1 HIE plus. Now Z1 plus HIE multiply with Z2. So you will get a Z1 Z2 plus HIE Z1 Z2 plus Z1 HIE into Z2. Sorry, it is a HIE. Okay, HIE into Z2. Now Z1 plus HIE will be multiplied with Z3. So plus Z1 Z3 plus a HIE into Z3, and this is equal to a minus 1 upon HAP. Okay. Now in the denominator, if you look at this term, then Z1 HIE is there, Z2 HIE and Z3 HIE is there. So from this three terms, we can take a HIE common. So we can write a Z1 Z2 divided by the HIE into Z1 plus Z2 plus Z3, and what are the remaining terms? They are Z1 Z2 plus Z1 Z3, and this is equal to minus 1 upon HAP. And now we take a cross multiplication, means the Z1 Z2 multiplied with HAP, and minus 1 will be multiplied with this term. So here the Z1 Z2 HAP will be equal to minus HIE into Z1 plus Z2 plus Z3 minus Z1 Z2 minus Z1 Z3. And we take this term on this side, then you will get a HIE into Z1 plus Z2 plus Z3. Now, if you look at this, Z1, Z2, HAP is here. Z1, Z2, HAP is here, and the Z1, Z2 is there. We are taking the Z1, Z2 on the other side, so we can have this common term. So plus Z1, Z2 into 1 plus HAP and plus Z1, Z3. This is equal to 0. Correct? Now, here, remember, this is a most important equation. So, in a Hartley and Colpitts oscillator, up to this, we have a common analysis because we have not defined what is Z1 and what is Z2. Correct? So, in case of the Colpitts oscillator, you can use the same mathematics and the same formula. Now here, for the Hartley oscillator, we will write what is Z1, Z2 and Z3, and we will try to obtain the frequency of oscillation. Okay, what is my expression? Expression is this. Correct? For Hartley oscillator, here, what is Z1? Z1 means here that it is a inductor, correct? So we can write it is a J omega L1 plus N. We have to consider the mutual inductor also because due to the mutual inductance, the EMF is produced in another inductor. So Z1 is J omega L1 plus N. What is my Z2? It is also an inductor. So it is J omega L2 plus N. And what is Z3? It is a capacitor. So minus J omega by C is there. So if we insert this value in this expression, then we have HIE into J omega L1 plus N plus J omega L2 plus N minus the Z3 is there minus J by omega C. Okay? This is my first term of the expression. Then what is the second term? Then second term if we write plus Z1 Z2. So here it is a J omega L1 plus N, then multiplication with J omega L2 plus N into 1 plus HAP. Correct? And then we have a plus Z1 Z3. So Z1 is a J omega L1 plus N multiplied with minus J omega C, and this is equal to 0. So the expression is very big, but now it is going to be simplified. Okay, so here if you look at this first term, then this first term is going to be an imaginary term. How it will be imaginary? Here if you write, if you simply if you take the J common, then the J into HIE, and also you can take a, okay, then here we have omega. Now omega L1 plus M, and here we have L2 plus M. So if you take the summation, then you will get L1 plus L2 plus 2M minus 1 upon omega C. then here, if you look at this, then j into j, it will be a minus 1. So here, so this term is going to be a negative. Omega square into L1 plus n, L2 plus n into 1 plus HAT. And then in this term also the j into j is going to be multiplied j square and it will be a minus 1. And again we have this negative sign, so it will be a plus. So we can write that a plus. Here this omega will be cancelled. Then we can write it is a L1 plus n divided by c, and this is equal to 0. Correct? Okay. So here what we have calculated, actually we have calculated k into AV, and that is the loop gain. But we know that the loop gain is always a real gain. But here in this expression, this is my imaginary term, and imaginary term will be always a 0 because we want a real gain. So imaginary term is equal to 0. So then you can find what is the frequency of oscillation. So HIE now the imaginary term is 0, therefore the HIE into omega L1 plus L2 plus 2n minus 1 upon omega c, and this is equal to 0. Right? So we can write that this is a omega L1 plus L2 plus 2n equal to 1 upon omega c. And finally, you will get omega square equal to 1 upon L1 plus L2 plus 2n into c. Or we can say the frequency of oscillation f is equal to 1 upon 2 pi under root of L1 plus L2 plus 2n into c. So this is a important equation for the Hartley oscillator. The frequency of oscillation you can calculate by placing this value of L1, L2 and C. Okay. Now if you look at this, that in this expression my imaginary term is 0. This imaginary term is 0. So what we have? Minus omega square into L1 plus n into L2 plus n and 1 plus HAT, and this is equal to a L1 plus n by C. So here you can cancel out this negative sign. So this will be a positive. It will be L1 plus n by C. Now what is omega square? Omega square is 1 upon L1 plus L2 plus 2n into C. So 1 upon L1 plus L2 plus 2n into C, then L1 plus n, L2 plus n into 1 plus HAT, equal to L1 plus M divided by C. So here the C will be cancelled. L1 plus M from both the sides it will be cancelled. Then we can write 1 plus HAP equal to L1 plus L2 plus 2N divided by L2 plus N. And if you simplify this, so this expression I can write as L1 plus N plus L2 plus N divided by L2 plus N. So here L2 plus M will be 1. We have L1 plus M divided by L2 plus M plus 1. This side 1 plus HAP is there. So 1 will be cancelled. Then new. So HAP equal to L1 plus N divided by L2 plus N. Remember, this is known as a condition for the sustained oscillation. Condition for sustained oscillation. Correct? So here we have calculate what is the frequency of oscillation, then we have calculate what is the condition for sustained oscillation. Means when you are designing, then you have to take the ratio of L1 by L2 in such a way that it should be equal to a HAP or it should be greater than the HAP, then only the sustained oscillation will be there, otherwise it will generate a damped oscillation. Correct? So this is about a Hartley oscillator. In the next session, we will see the Colpitts oscillator, and for the Colpitts oscillator, we will obtain a frequency of oscillation and what is the condition for the sustained oscillation.